Hello, everyone. This is Cris Duncan from the Texas School of Professional Photography. And once again, we're joined by one of our amazing instructors, Doug Bennett. And his class is Landscape Photography, Technically and Expressive Fundamentals of Landscape Photography. So really how to do know the technical aspects and the creative side of landscape photography. It's a lot more than just a pretty place. I can assure you that. So Doug, thank you for joining us today on our Texas School Off the Record talk.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so you've been teaching at Texas School for several years now, and so you're no stranger to.
Right, that's right. And I've lost, and I'm an old guy. I don't keep track of numbers. I don't know how many years it's been. 5, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But you're no stranger to Texas School and the culture of Texas School, and as you know, we have lots of classes at Texas School, but yours being specific to landscape. So tell us what makes your class unique.
Well, our class is unique in that we really get into the compositional side of things. We get into dynamic symmetry, which was a compositional approach taken by Renaissance painters and the like. We also get into visual transitions of how the eye will flow through a scene to create a sense of depth that entices a viewer to take that journey through your landscape image. So we really concentrate on a lot of that. We we'll focus on that in a photo shoot that we'll do. We'll probably go to the Dallas Arboretum. I am looking to add another shooting outing this year. We've had people express to us they'd like to do a little more shooting outing. And, I do remind them, I said, well, we're not in southern Utah, but like we'd like to be. But we are looking to add another one because I think there could be some benefit from doing that. So,
yeah. So that's really great. Talking about like taking a journey into the image. So you want someone to just like when they see one of your images, they should hike through it. They're wanting to explore all.
That's right. Sometimes you'll get someone who say, gee, I feel like I was there, seeing it with their own eyes, getting that sense of depth in the image. And so that's one of the things that we strive for, to get that sense of depth.
Yeah, that's really great. I know your images, they do seem so three-dimensional that you could reach your hand in it and just grab
Mhm.
and grab some.
And there's techniques to use in post-processing on how to get there. So, and we are going to expand our post-processing section more this year than we have in past years. So,
oh, well, that's a great segue because you've already talked about going to Dallas Arboretum and maybe adding another thing. So students in your class, they need to be prepared to bring a camera. And kind of what does a day look like? I know the class is 5 days, April 26th through May 1, and you can't go over every detail of what you'll do every minute of the week, but what's kind of an overview picture of what your students could experience?
Well, we do a lot of presentations, but we go through that pretty slow. We don't rush through that. We don't, I went to one time where the guy had a lot to say, and I mean, he opened up the can and it just spewed out. So we take it slow and we invite questions, and we also pepper a lot of our presentation with stories, because Laura and I has been out there, and so we tease off of each other a lot and kind of keep the laughter going, a lighthearted feel to everything that people enjoy. We've had quite a few people repeat. I've had one lady attend, well, twice at Texas School, and then once I did a workshop at Colorado, and I said, why are you here? I said, you're just, she says, I love hearing this again. And then she was so used to my presentation in Colorado this year, she says, well, aren't you going to tell the story about that time Laura got in your way or whatever it was? I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny.
And I said, well, no, I know you've heard that before. I want to hear it again. So that's kind of what we do.
Yeah. So the presentation, and then they're bringing their cameras. So these field trips.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, when we'll schedule the outings, tell people when we're going to go, what lenses we would like for them to bring, and and we're going to do even Dallas Arboretum a little different this year. In past year in class, we talked about here's what we want you to do, but then we kind of let them go do their own thing. But I think this year we're going to lead them a little bit more in that regard and gather them around and say, look, here's how to get the leading lines. Here's how to get that convergence that'll drive that sense of depth that we want to get in the image. Because when we turned them loose before in the past, I think they tend to revert to past behaviors.
Right.
We're trying to alter that muscle memory that they developed over the years. We're trying to do it different. So I've reassessed that in terms of how we're going to go about that.
Well, for sure, if you're coming to Texas school, you're coming here to learn. So it's
That's
great
right.
that you're going to be there to guide them and coach them through all of that.
That's
Um,
right.
and you also mentioned post-processing. So are we working in Photoshop or Lightroom or the both or other specialty software we may not be familiar with? Or
We uh, we're going to be in Photoshop, but mostly Adobe Camera Raw,
okay.
because in working landscape, and particularly like traveling and getting instruction ourselves from Mark Adamus, who we consider to be the benchmark that in the world, really. Uh, he uses the history brush extensively. Now we've tried to do that, and if you're a painter and an artist like what he was, that process works. For us, we just can't get it to work, so we reverted back to Adobe Camera Raw, interfacing, going back and forth with Photoshop a lot, and in some cases using the history brush. There's a special technique called auto HDR that you can use. You do that in ACR, then you bring it into the history brush, and then you, with a light opacity, brush in and get light rays much better and all that sort of thing. So,
Oh,
so we blend the two aspects together, and we haven't talked about that before in post processing too much, and so we've poured ourselves into that because Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw, with their new masking
mhm.
abilities that you've got there, I mean, I'm all the more excited because that really, really works well.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that, even though you've taught there for years and you've had repeat students, there's even an opportunity for a repeat again because
Yeah.
you're bringing new techniques that you've learned along.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of lean into that. These students, we've talked, you've had several repeats. So like if a student's like on the fence of like, or what kind of students have you seen? Like if you were going to match make, like this is
Yeah.
if you're this, you're a good candidate for our class.
Well, we have seen a lot in the people who have attended our class. There are a lot of portrait photographers, whatever, wildlife, whatever it might be. They come to our class because they have an interest in landscape. And like when we first started out, we go out and shoot the landscape. I said, man, I've got a great scene in front of me, but I'm not sure how to go about doing this. And
Mhm.
so we bring to that a knowledge and methodology to help them see better and then be able to craft the image and what to look for. And the result of that is two things. One, you get a much better image, and two, you have a lot more fun doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So does your student need to be someone that like they just got a camera and they're excited to use it? Or are you looking for someone that has a little more experience with their?
We did, I think we have it mentioned as and I forget the categories. You don't have to be advanced, but I've given thought to that. And because a lot of our class is oriented towards the composition side of things, they
Mhm.
don't really need to be highly proficient in their camera. We do talk about some techniques, exposing
Mhm.
to the right, to protecting the red channel. We do that Sunday night. We'll talk about that. And then Monday morning, we'll go out and shoot. And that's a separate, I don't count that as one of our shooting outings, even though we go out and shoot because we want to make sure people understand that. We've
Yeah.
noticed that when we talk about that, we get a lot of head nods, people understanding. But as soon as they get out there and try to do it, again, it's re-changing out the muscle memory, if you
Yeah.
will. So we do.
Yeah. That's great. So it sounds like your class is really a student where they could be, they just want something new. They've been a portrait photographer for 20 years, or they're like, man, I just love being outdoors and hiking and
Yeah,
want to recreate the places I see.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I know that sounds fun, and I know you've been to a lot of amazing places and won some great awards and many industry accolades with your landscape photography. Um, so one thing I kind of ask everybody this as we kind of wrap up, and it can get it can be philosophical, or it can be practical, or it can be both. You know, Texas school is obviously a great experience. There's lots of class education. You make new friends. There's a family atmosphere. We have fun at our parties. We learn a lot. We play a lot. But then you get home and the notebook falls by the bed. The kids and the family and the day-to-day starts coming in, and
Yes.
real life sets in. So tell me how a photographer or a student that's in Doug and Laura's landscape class, how does their life different, or what can they do the week after Texas school that they could not do before?
Well, that's a good question because what years ago when I first started this, and of course at that time our instruction was much more rudimentary than it is now. But I went to, I think it was Nebraska. Can't think of the lady's name right now. but she was president of the Nebraska PPA, and I gave this pitch. And so a couple of years later, she came to Colorado to Breckenridge, and she sent me an email. She said, "Doug, I got out there and saw some wildflowers and a mountain peak, and I got out my tripod and put the camera on there. And when I started looking through my viewfinder, your words were in my head." And this was 2 years later.
Yeah.
So I think because we kind of take it kind of slow, kind of methodically, kind of thoroughly explain the whys, the underlying whys, then it all registers in the mind better. And so we have people retain that. I think, once you're exposed to it and it makes sense, then when you're out there, you see it. And so that's the kind of feedback we've gotten from people. So certainly once they get home, if they went outside and got in the flower garden or whatnot and tried some of these techniques, but the feedback we've gotten is coming. And when I'd have people repeat the class, I'd say, "Well, did you feel like you didn't get something or something wasn't clear?" And the answer we typically get is, "Oh, I just want to hear this again. I love it. I love listening to it." So that's good to hear, because I was afraid maybe we weren't getting through to these people. So
well, I think it's just, that's what Texas School brings. It's such a deep dive. Some people might have heard you and say, "Well, I heard Doug on a half day at this place," or for a full day, or I've seen his YouTube video or whatever. But when you're in a week, there's a lot of you need to repeat that. You can't go to one exercise class and think you're in shape, just like you can't. And so
and one funny story I relate to you. One year at Texas School, I think it's our first year, we hopped on the elevator, and there was one of the Texas School portrait artists who we tremendously admire. I won't use a name here, but he said, "Hey, you guys are teaching landscape?" And we nodded yes. And he says, "How do you talk about that for a week?" But the reality is, I've told our class this, I could really use another day, so. I mean, we got that much to talk about. So
yeah, well, and it just shows how much you pour into your class and how much information there really is, because students don't know what they don't know. And
that's right.
And you've got so much experience, and you share your past mistakes so they don't make them out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So your class, technically and artistically expressive landscape images.
Yes.
Yep. Texas School, April 26th through May 1. Doug, I want to thank you for this time today. I know your class still has a few openings. It's not quite sold out. It's getting close. So if you're interested in your landscape, if you like to travel or even just photograph around your own backyard, Doug and Laura can show you that and give you some skill sets. And it's probably a new way of seeing things through your God-given eyes that your man-made camera can capture. So
that's
Doug,
right. And I've asked my wranglers to dig a Grand Canyon out north of Dallas, so we'll see if they come through.
We'll see if they got that done. Well, there's beauty all around us, and you're going to help people capture that in new ways. Right. So, Doug, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And again, just a reminder, you can look at Doug and Laura's class, texasschool.org. The dates are April 26th through May 1, and we hope to see you in April.
And we'd love to have you. Thanks. Appreciate it.